It's the Citizens for Economic Development Act. This would allow a city or town to propose a capital improvement project in a referendum to their voters, and their voters would be agreeing to a 1% sales tax increase, a temporary levy, to pay for the project. The project would have to be specified on the ballot, and once enough sales tax had been generated to pay for the project, the extra tax would end. I'm Sherry Vize. I'm the Executive Director of the Mississippi Municipal League, and I'm proud to welcome you here today as we kick off our legislative agenda by promoting a very important piece of legislation, the Citizens for Economic Development Act. We're proud to represent 289 member cities across the state of Mississippi, from the smallest village in our state to our capital city. Our mission is to help all of our cities excel. And one of the ways that they could excel is by improving the quality of life in their cities. And a major tool to help them do that would be the local option sales tax, or CEDA. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our legislative chairman, Mayor Tommy Irwin of Corinth.
As a 2014 Municipal League legislative chairman and the mayor of Corinth, I'm here today to ask the legislature to give Mississippi citizens and towns important tools that will enable us to meet critical infrastructure needs in our communities, which will ultimately make our cities more attractive to business and economic development. Some facts about CEDA. What is CEDA? Well, it stands for Citizens for Economic Development. As the name implies, citizens in our cities and town must approve CEDA project by 60% super majority vote. A CEDA project can add up to 1% to sales tax that can only be used for capital, infrastructure, economic development projects, and that would be placed on the ballot for our citizens to vote on. CEDA projects would create much needed jobs in our communities. CEDA could provide significant savings on interest payments and fund projects much more quicker. Again, it is an option that must be approved by 60% of the citizens, allowing them to improve the quality of their lives in their community. What CEDA is not. I had an ad valorem election a couple of years ago, and our people strongly said we don't want a tax increase. But what they did say was that let's have a sales tax increase. But CEDA is not mandated by municipal government. It is not a permanent levy. It only lasts for, in this case, would be 4 years, and then you would have to vote it again. And again, the thing that I love about it is that it allows citizens in your community, which I think know a lot about stuff, a lot more sometimes than we politicians, but it allows them to make the decision on this critical information and piece. Finally, next week, the citizens of Jackson, Mississippi will hold a local option referendum to give their citizens the choice of taxing themselves to generate revenue for critically needed infrastructure improvements in our capital city. The Mississippi Municipal League strongly supports the city of Jackson in this effort, and we are respectfully asking the leaders in the House, Senate, and our governor to grant the same right to all cities and towns during the 2014 legislative year. Cities are, and I want to repeat, cities are the economic engine of our state. And if our cities and towns can improve and prosper, it will mean even greater prosperity for our state. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great being here again today. I want to just say something about an editorial that I read out of the Columbus, Mississippi paper in support of CEDA. It came out yesterday. If you have not read that, it really lays it on line. It's a good piece, and I'm say thank you to the mayor and the people in Columbus, Mississippi, because that really tells it like it is. At this time, I'd like to introduce Alton Shaw, Mayor of Wesson, Thank you.
I just wanted to address something I think some misconception among a lot of people about what CEDA is and who it will help. And just kind of speak to the small towns for a moment. From being from a small town, you know, of course, everybody battles with money, but a lot of people say it's not going to help the small towns, and that is incorrect. We had an engineer look at it. For the town of Weston, a little less than 2,000 people, it would take roughly about $500,000 to be able to pave and redo the roads we needed. Now, if we did it the traditional way and added on the ad valorem tax, under this circumstance would be 10% allotted by law this year, would generate about an additional $20,000. So we're looking at 25 years to pay off a project that's got a lifespan of about 15 years. To where if we had the ability to do a local option and do it through the sales tax, that would generate a little over $100,000 a year for us. So we'd be able to pay off the same project in about 5 years. I've had the privilege over the last few years of being part of a tri-state obesity prevention coalition. And I've talked to some of the other states, and they've explained to me about some of the sidewalks they've built, some of the roads they've done, the parks they've been able to develop. And I'm like, how do you do that? And they said local option. So why do we consistently want to stand in the way of people being able to vote to improve their own quality of life? So much has been spoken about economic development. And I think the Lieutenant Governor hit it on the head when he said what local governments are for is to create the environment that businesses flourish. But we need tools to try and help create that environment. And that's where we come up short. And that's what we're asking for. We're not asking for an additional tax to be put upon people. We're asking for people to have the option to put a tax on themselves to better their community and better their entire quality of life. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to introduce Mayor Jimmy Cockcroft, Mayor of Kosciuszko, our second Vice President.
Good afternoon. I'd like to just talk a little bit about how it directly affects towns like Kosciuszko and others. And there's men and women behind me that represent towns a lot bigger than Kosciuszko and some smaller. But the future growth and stability of our cities and towns is critical for this state. As a mayor, I can tell you operating a city is getting tougher and tougher. I'm in my 5th term as mayor of the city of Kosciuszko, so I've seen us go from being able to pave and fix things out of our own pockets or with help from the city or from the state, and everything go along okay without having to raise taxes too much. Street and bridge maintenance alone has gone up over 300% in the last 10 years. In my time as mayor of the city of Kosciuszko, we've had 2 bond issues. One we did in 1998 for $2 million, and we paved nearly every street in our town. In 2008, we paved just a little over half of those same streets with a $2.5 million bond issue. Now, math would tell you that's 5 years ago. I've got streets that are not going to last 10 or 15 more years. They need attention now. They need, according to my city engineer, $4 million today. I can't put that much debt on my tax-paying citizens of Kosciuszko without some other kind of form of a financial agreement of some sort, some tool of some sort like CEDA. Cities and towns have limited ways that we can generate new revenue, but we still have all the responsibility to take care of the streets, the water, the sewer, and every other thing that goes along with running a city, whether it's large or small. And we can't continue to expect property owners in our towns to foot every bit of this bill. Just as the city of Jackson will do on January 14th when they hold their local option referendum, all Mississippi cities want that same right. That's all we're asking. We're asking for allow our citizens to vote for improvements on our community. 34 other states have this option right now, and that's what we want. We need the local option in Mississippi to take care of ourselves. I'm going to turn it back to Ms. Sherry Vizet. Thank you.
We have over 50% of our cities who have passed a resolution of support for CEDA, and we have more who have it scheduled for board meetings later in the month. So that shows you how committed our cities are to this, how much they need it, and we hope our legislators will listen to those folks at the local level that know what their citizens want and will support. We thank you for being here, and we will all be around for questions if any of the members of the media have questions afterwards. Thank you for coming.
What would this mean for cities, towns, and villages across Mississippi?
It would be a huge tool for them. All of our cities and towns are struggling with crumbling and aging infrastructure, water, sewer, streets. They have limited ways to generate new revenue. Raising property taxes is not an option, and it puts an unfair burden on business and property owners. This is a way to generate new revenue on a temporary basis. It keeps them from having to finance these projects over long periods of time, so obviously it saves them a huge amount in interest, so it's a more fiscally responsible way to pay for a project.
We're meeting together as all mayors, and we're asking the legislature to allow cities all over the state of Mississippi to have a vote to raise sales tax, so this money would be used to fix infrastructure that's in real bad shape and has been for many, many years in our communities.
Give us an example of what this would mean to your area.
Well, if you know, in my area, we're looking at if we could have 1/4% increase in our sales tax. It would generate over $1 million a year, and to put $1 million on paving streets, working on sewers, and fixing infrastructure that has been left neglected because there was no monies to fix it for 25 and 30 years, it'd be a big plus. I'm selling investment in Corinth, and the better my community looks, the better opportunity I have to sell that next employer.
Our engineer looked at it and said it'd cost around $500,000 to repair all the roads in Wesson. And currently, by raising ad valorem tax to maximum allowed at 10%, we would generate probably around $20,000 a year. So we're looking at a 25-year payback period for a lifespan of a project that's about 15 years. If we could do the local option, that would raise a little over $100,000 a year and allow us to do that same project, pay it back in 5 years, and still have life left on the project.
Your reaction to everything that you've seen and heard here today?
Oh, it's been positive, but you know, we always have the uphill battle, and we're going to continue to fight it.
Most cities have an infrastructure problem. You know, that's one of the things that you can't raise enough ad valorem taxes or enough fees to actually take care of the problems that you have. You need that extraordinary income to come in. That's what sales tax does for you.
And what would this mean in terms of making your city more competitive with others when it comes in terms of trying to create jobs and attracting industry?
Well, this is an economic development tool. You know, economic development is about providing things that other cities can't. Everybody does the same thing. They give you all the same exemptions, but there's some things that you can't do. One of the things that we're vying for right now is getting fiber to businesses and fiber to the home. Well, that sets us aside. Well, the other thing that sets us aside is being able to provide the infrastructure that businesses need, that firms need, that corporations need when they come in, without actually taxing the people to make that happen. And that's what industry is looking for.
If this were passed by the legislature, what would it mean for your town?
It would mean the world. Right now we're dealing with an industrial prospect. We already have a building, but he needs a lot of work done to that building to make it work for him. Well, MDA has got some grants to help with that, but it takes time to do those, and also they cap out at a certain amount of money, which is less than what we need to do in this building. So if I had this, I could sit there and take this to the people, get it passed, do the renovations of this building, and bring in approximately 100 new jobs to my citizens. That's pretty good economic development.
Your reaction to what you've heard and seen here today?
Well, it's the same as last year. I mean, the cities are for this. Again, over 50% of the cities have passed resolutions supporting this, so it's the same as last year. We need this. This is an economic development tool that the people decide whether or not they want.
It would allow us to accomplish our #1 program in Ridgeland, which is something our citizens have asked us to do, and that is the redevelopment of Southeast Ridgeland. This is a very big project that's going to require additional funds, and this would be the answer to that particular problem.
What's your reaction to everything that you've seen and heard here today?
Well, obviously, I think that it shows that there's a consensus of cities across the state that really believe that this is something that's important that needs to be passed.
What would this mean for your city?
Well, for Vicksburg, this will give us an opportunity to get some much-needed projects paid for. One of the challenges that we meet as elected officials is finding ways to pay for much-needed projects that we have, and this CEDA legislation puts the power back in the hands of the citizens, and it keeps us, helps us to be able to control debt by giving us a local option to pay for projects.
This would just mean tremendous opportunity for our community. Our streets in the city of Morton, we have got about 26 miles of streets, and they're in very, very poor condition. 2/3 of them are, and there's just no money in our budget to fix our streets, and that would be the first thing I would like to see if CEDA was passed, that present this to our citizens and give them the opportunity to vote on resolution for us to have an optional sales tax to fix our streets. Because right now, it would probably take about $2 million is what we need to fix our streets, and CEDA could give us $350,000 a year. So probably in about 4 or 5 years, we have enough money we could raise to fix all the streets and more. Otherwise, if we raise property taxes, we could only get $60,000 a year. So it would just take 20 or 30 years to fix streets by raising people's property taxes. So CEDA is the best opportunity, best option we have to obtain revenue to fix streets and more.
If people have questions like more information, what should they do?
They can contact our office at 601-353-5854, or they can visit our website at mmlonline.org.